5:30, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have 7 of 7 board members present, so we have a quorum. No absences to note, and no additions or adjustments to the agenda. Next item is the consent for the agenda of the April minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Are you guys trying to sound like Tim?
No, I'm
It's-
just.
You're just fresh.
I'm running on fumes.
Nobody can say so.
Yeah, I was gonna
Do we
say,
have,
no one else, yeah.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions, 7-0. Okay, next item is audience with the public, and I do know that there is at least one person in the audience that wants to talk, so I'm not gonna read the rules. You've been one up to these meetings, so you know the rules.
Yeah, in reading the new policy about the phones, it says bell to bell. I don't think it should go bell to bell. I think it should be back on the buses too, because we have issues with the phones there too. So I feel as though, and some of them have been pretty serious issues. So I just would like to put my 2 cents worth into saying that bell to bell is not, we've always been told that school day starts when they step on that bus. So, a lot of time is consumed when they use these phones in ways that they shouldn't. And, you know, we have to go down to the bus garage, play the cameras, it's hours. You guys are paying a lot of money for that. So, it's not just the fact of the money, it's more of the safety issue, because we can't be watching that. At least in school, they can send them to the office or have somebody else help them. Who do we have? So, it's like, I just want that to be considered at least.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Thank you.
And I would say, if not bus to bus, building to building, students walk in with student walk in with a phone, it's not gonna go away that quick.
And
It starts right, those people, teachers, staff that have been in schools and know about this, it's a problem right from the door.
That's a problem. The door.
And so if it's not at least the bus, it ought to be door to door. That'd be my thought.
Good point.
Just to give you guys an example of one of the last ones, and I'm not gonna mention any names, but quite a few of us know there was quite a fight down there back, I'm guessing a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, that happened right outside the high school. And literally kids were taping that, and one of them brought it back on my bus and was playing that. It was total chaos on my bus, total chaos. Everybody's phones was going off, everybody was, oh my God, trying to run back and forth. It was chaos, and I just feel that it's, for safety purposes, anybody better think back as far as the buses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wants to talk? Hearing none, we'll go to the action items. First one is action item JICL. I think that's not.
JICJ.
Is it double J?
Yep.
Okay. JJCL?
No, JICJ.
GICJ. Oh, okay. All right, cell phones and other personal electronic devices in schools, and we'll send it to.
Thank you. So, as you all know, but I'll say it for the public, the state of Maine has implemented a law and we have to come up with a policy. The good news is, this is just round one. I don't know that we're going to finish this tonight. But I asked Ian to kind of have the policy committee look at the technology things that we need to address between now and the time that I move along, so that we could try to have things teed up for September of next year, because it gives everyone time to plan. So I want to just kind of start this meeting by saying, I believe this is a 2-part meeting. I don't know that we're going to get this done tonight. And I just want to set the expectation that it's more about rich conversation, figuring out what to do, doing some research, having a solid plan for September 1st, then checking the box of having a policy meeting and writing a policy and then not having it be effective. right? This needs to be effective, and I'll just give you a little bit of background. The district that I ran prior to this, the high school, asked the board and I to support them in doing a bell-to-bell band. And, sorry, not a band, it's not Paul McCartney and Wings. A bell-to-bell band, sorry, I hate it when I do that. But anyway, the bell-to-bell band was brutal the first 3 weeks. Parents were really upset. Kids had no problem, because the drama went down immediately. But the parents really struggled because they couldn't text their children during the day. And the truth is that this isn't about them. And I don't mean that to be cold or mean, but it's about the students learning. And these devices are so incredibly disruptive to the day for everyone. From videotaping in the bathroom, to sending inappropriate pictures on Apple Watches, to the AirPods. We even wrote in the policy, we wrote all private electronic devices, including but not limited to cell phones, AirPods, watches, iPads, computers, drones, any.
AI glasses.
The glasses now would be one, yep.
There are glasses.
There are glasses
Meta
now.
glasses, yeah.
Yep, they have a camera in the bridge of the glasses. And so it is very important that you understand that if you want this to be effective, the first piece of it is painful. And there will be pushback. There'll be parents at these meetings, they'll be upset. And I would advise you that if you really want this fixed, to really think hard about being prepared for that pushback and what our priority is here. Our vision and mission is to educate these children and get them ready for the world that they're going to face. And the question is, what role, really the big existential question is, what role does technology play in meeting the goals of that mission and vision? And I would posit that the best thing you can do is have kids use their school-issued computers and technology for the purpose of doing their schoolwork. And there are some very extreme situations that need to be addressed. So for example, if someone has diabetes and their phone is used to manage their pump for their diabetes, that would be one of the only rare exceptions. You don't need your phone to listen to music because you have anxiety. We'll give you headphones and you plug them into your computer, and we will give you the ability to listen to music on your school computer. There should be very, very, very few exceptions if you make this decision. And the intention of this law is to make the decision for you. But there's a lot of room in here for the way it's implemented. And the reality is that if it's not implemented appropriately, it will go sideways. So let me give you an example. If kids are allowed to put their cell phones in their backpack at the middle school, I guarantee you that the minute they walk in the hall, the cell phone's coming out, and there's no way for the staff to police it. If the students have their cell phone in their backpack and they go to the bathroom, it's going to come out. And then the whole goal of reducing the drama is done. Because it only takes them about, 90 seconds to look up whatever Joey or Susie's doing, or whatever inappropriate photo's been sent to them. The inappropriate photos is bananas, guys. It's bananas. If I brought every kid to you for a hearing that did inappropriate pictures, you would be in non-stop executive session doing hearings for kids with inappropriate pictures. It is crazy. It's so bad that even the DA is just like, I don't know what to do with this. So these phones are bad, right, in a lot of ways. And so we need to really figure out, it's not the phones that are bad, it's just like money. Money's not bad, it's how you use it, right? The device isn't the problem, it's the management. And what we need to do is be very careful as an organization to not, I don't want you to I just want you to be aware of one pitfall that I've seen, which is that if you set up a scenario where the teachers have to manage what to do with this, you will inevitably end up with nice teachers and bad teachers. The nice teachers let kids look at their phones when they're done the work, and the bad teachers hold everyone to the policy. So just think about those things as you're going through this, and that's really all. I just wanted to open this up because I've had just a little bit of a minor head of the curve experience, and I wanted you to know that, the first 3 weeks are rugged, but it's the parents. They can't get a hold of their kids, they can't text them, we can't figure out soccer practice, blah, blah, blah. I appreciate that. And I understand that that's a challenge, that in the mid-90s, we went to soccer practice and figured it out, and if you needed to, you went to the office and called your mom, right? It's not the end of the world.
Mid-70s.
Yeah,
Same
I
thing.
think anything pre-20, and,
60s.
yeah,
Oh,
pre-2000, really.
Wait, you
yeah.
had to go like this and talk, didn't you? No.
All right, so, yeah, did you wanna say more, Randy, or you good?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we already have a cell phone, don't belong, here. If they're allowed to take them, if it doesn't change from what it is now, there will be no change.
Right.
If kid can stand out in the hall or somewhere and say, hang on, or outside the building, because the bell is gonna ring, I'll be in a minute. Now the teacher has to deal with the kid, or the office has to deal with someone being late to class, or not following direction, or, the rule's already been here. This time it needs to be enforceable, or at least more so.
Yeah, and I'll say, kind of break a little rule here. Tom and I have been talking about this since November, about doing an actual bell-to-bell ban. But because of Tom's point of the parents and how important it is to get this bond passed, we were like, we don't want to have that lightning rod introduced during this same time. But unfortunately, the state has forced our hand on it, so it is what it is now, so.
Ben had his hand up.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at the fall conference, we heard from two schools about how they implemented theirs. One was a smaller high school up north, which is fairly lenient, and they thought it was working well, but maybe not. And then we heard a good presentation from RSU 1, who had a much more stringent policy in effect. They brought several people in, they brought a panel of students in to talk about it. So that was my first thought when I saw this was going to be on the agenda. I thought, what can we crib from their experience? And so based on what I remember them saying and the documents that I've been able to get my hands on publicly, it sounds like a lot of the things that they have done that have worked and that have made their policy work might be more of a procedural level than a policy level. So I think one of the things we should be thinking about is just, where are we going to draw the line between, Tom, you're constantly reminding us, like, don't get too specific at the policy level.
Right.
But where do we want to make sure that if something's going to be in here, it's going to either set the stage for, or outright establish and enable the policy, the procedures and practices that have worked in other schools. If our policy's too loose, then there's, without a good procedure backing it up, then it's more or less meaningless. But if we try to work too hard to get too specific in the policy realm, then we miss something, and then there's a loophole that someone can exploit. So.
And I think that's why, what I wanted to get this started in part by saying, do this slow and do it right. And you should talk to Linda, we should have Josh here, we should do some conversations with people about what the what I hear, tell me if I'm wrong, Ben, but what I heard you talking about is that balance between the written policy and the procedure. And my instinct is to make sure that the written policy supports the procedure of the principals.
Yeah.
And helping them to manage this very difficult, helping the teachers really is the goal here.
Yeah.
To manage this very difficult situation. I'm sorry, Rachel, I forgot you had your hand up.
No, you're fine. I just want to make a quick, sort of thought on as this moves forward as well, which like the obviously huge change between like the 70s and the 90s between now and the anxiety of parents is like the school shootings, right? Or emergencies in general, and that's like what parents think about, and we've talked about obviously, and like maybe know from being on this end that like phones aren't helpful in those situations, but I think there should be also like a big sort of like information push going forward with this, about like that being in mind of easing the anxiety of parents in that moment, and having also like making sure that our safety protocols and those sorts of things are also very well, that information is going out to parents as well, just so that, because that's I think where that comes from, like the soccer practice is one thing that's really like people wanna get in touch with their kids in case of an emergency because they think that that is going to be helpful when, and I don't know like how, to best get that information out, but I think that should be sort of in tangent with this as we move forward.
And just to, continue to crib from the people who've done this before, when Bath did this, they did a big lead up, they did a lot of community outreach, they had a committee, they did a survey of the public, and one of the things they did was actually enlist local law enforcement to back them up on matters of safety. So it wasn't coming from the school people, you had, local police, Bath Police Department or whoever saying, in our experience, like, these are the things that are useful in emergency, these are the things that are not, why it's important to have clear, direct lines of communication, not let rumor, through other channels get out and go crazy. And so I don't know whether we will feel like we have the time to do this, especially now that this is coming from the state, but there are maybe ways to communicate to the public that aren't obvious at first thought that might make this easier.
I mean, Camden has just started it this year, correct? And so we might also tap into that, how they've been
It
managing.
segues perfectly into Ian, because that's why he's at the big boy table, as it were, because he has plenty of input to provide to us.
Thank you, Rick, for that. To Randy's point, our current policy says students possess privately owned cellular devices and other electronic devices. These devices may not be used at school or during school activities in any manner that disrupts the educational process or that violates school policies or school rules. So that is a very subjective standard that the district has set for what is the educational process. Is that a study hall? Is that when students don't have work? Is that when they're going to the bathroom? Is that when they're in the cafeteria? Is that when they don't regard the process as being particularly educational or engaging to them? So I think that we have set up a system by which you create the good teacher and the bad teacher and set a subjective standard for when students may or may not. And we know that when a motivated student, someone who is motivated to find the loopholes in a contract, they will find those loopholes and they will hit, and the teacher who's least likely to get into a power struggle with a student will bend because they don't know if they're gonna have the support of assigning a consequence or being the heavy. So I think that our current policy, while well-intended and open-ended enough for good intentions, is not enough on this particular point. In looking at this policy, and I did trade some emails with other tech directors and with Charlotte, I don't remember, Bates at MSMA. I believe that the intention for the state is for the board to set the standard by which all handbooks and procedures are live up to. I don't believe that it's this board's responsibility necessarily to set the procedure as part of the policy, to Ben's point, but set the general expectation that students, when they are during their school day, and I think bell to bell is a cute colloquialism to indicate the start of the school day to the end of the school day, because I don't even know how many schools have opening bells to begin with, let alone closing bells, because bells can be institutional, they can be the factory model of school, they can be triggering, they can be disruptive. So the idea of bell to bell is essentially the beginning of the school day to the end of the school day. And I think it's open-ended enough in its language to say that a school can designate the start of the school day for when the student is taken into custody of the school, whether it's on the school bus or when they walk through the building. I appreciate that there's disruption on the bus, but I think bus drivers have a lot on their hands. So to have an igloo cooler at the front of the bus that the kids drop their cell phones in, or they're checking to make sure the phone is off and away, might be a bridge too far for drivers if they're feeling rushed in the morning. Or they have an argumentative student who doesn't want to comply while traffic is stopped. There's things about that give me pause, but I don't think it's this policy that makes that necessarily that decision. And I think that the other piece is that the hard work becomes in the development of the handbook policy. we have 7 different school buildings with 7 different ways that students store their materials, with 7 different ways that students traverse the building. We have kindergartners who probably don't bring a lot of smart technology. We have 12th graders who have 9 different devices on them at any given time. So I think that the intention of JICJ is to set the table for the work. And that's why the August 1st deadline was put into place for the development of the handbooks that would be communicated with parents so that the policy is in place and well documented by the start of the school year. There's a lot of loaded language in here, but I do believe that the intent is for schools to agree to this at the district and policy level, and then let individual buildings and principals and staff and anyone, all the stakeholders, now that the expectation has been set, now we can work out the details of how it's gonna work. And it might evolve over time if one routine works or doesn't, or funding comes in different ways, and solutions may not be funded by September 1st, you know. So that's my initial thought on this, is that passing this policy is not necessarily the end of the work, it's the start of the work that needs to get done. And it's just a slightly different perspective on that. The other thing that this policy, I'm sorry, Melvin, that this policy does is it has a very wide umbrella for what a personal electronic device is. Cell phone, laptop, AirPods, iPods, Samsung tablets, you know, it's anything that's cellular or internet enabled. And so we're kind of addressing this first because it does have a knock-on policy for the rest, a knock-on effect to the rest of the policies on today's agenda. So that's my take on this, and why the state is asking for this action necessarily, maybe earlier than the procedures, is to just get that commitment to action, and then work out the details in a way that benefits all stakeholders.
Okay.
As you all know, I have one of them medical devices, it's hooked to a cell phone, and it disrupts our meetings. I know it does. But it don't, I should leave my cell phone home, because you don't need it. A diabetic don't need a cell phone to monitor sugar. If he's a type 1, and I don't believe there's many type 2s in the school system, might be teachers, but not students, it's right here in the pocket. They can look at that pump at any time. And it will make noise too. But the phone is much louder. That's my take that, you know, I went to school with type 1 diabetes at 5 years old. They didn't have cell phones then. They didn't have nothing. They didn't have school nurses. I survived.
It was the Ice Age.
Huh?
It was the Ice Age.
Yeah.
Well, the exceptions for medical devices, assistive technology for students with IEPs or other diagnosed English language learners, documented conditions, has been written into the law. So we are obligated to make accommodations for those students. And those cell phone apps for students also alert the nurse and parents if the student is going into a blood sugar crisis, which is helpful to make sure that the student gets the attention that they need, whether they know they're going into that state or not. So.
I've got 2 things. The first one is like just a wording that I think is a little redundant. So let's just do that since I mentioned it. It's on page 2. In the paragraph right above the big note in bold letters, it says the superintendent/building administrators will be responsible for developing and implementing procedures to implement and enforce this policy. Could we just say for developing procedures and eliminate the implementing?
Yeah.
The first implementing?
If I may, I actually took a stab at putting this into more human language.
Okay,
Proactive.
okay.
I did, this was not, and I agree that is a redundant
It's
thing,
very
but I just,
redundant.
yeah.
So, and then, other than that, my other question would be then, I mean, normally during the summer, committees don't meet, but it seems as though we might need to plan on meeting during the summer.
Right, and Tom and I have talked about that, and I've talked to Dan about that. I think because none of us, in theory, all of us will be here after the June election, so, and again, I'll talk with Danny about that as well in detail, but I think we'll probably be safe if we have to do some overtime, and then
Yeah.
if the committee does get adjusted in July, then we can obviously adjust to that, but I think we're pretty safe for the most part, because we're all, yes.
And we've done
Oh, I
that
did.
before.
Yeah.
We have been brought back in before.
Right, yeah, it's not
Policies.
uncommon, but we don't usually try to practice it.
And
so.
what I was gonna say, add is maybe we should start letting this be more known that we're working on it. So people don't walk in, kids don't walk in September, or parents don't walk in and say, I had no idea. And then it's maybe it ought to go on the website now.
We have
Policy,
drafted,
good, I mean, big bold, policy is working on. Be
we have
prepared,
drafted a
pay-
message for parents. that
Pay
they go out.
attention, it's gonna start when school starts, so.
Can you give Linda a copy of this?
Yeah.
Would this replace the JFCK-R? Which
It
is
could,
the procedure that goes in the cell phone?
well,
Well, no, 'cause
the JFCK is a policy for student digital devices. JFCK-R is the procedures for doing that. This could potentially replace that. JFCK and JFCK-R, the most just unfortunate acronyms in policies,
Oh, it's kind of.
are not listed as
Seems redundant.
is not listed as required school board policy on the MSMA website.
these JIs are the,
JICJ has been listed as of, required as of August 1st. So it is very possible that we could sunset JFCK and JFCK-R in lieu of this more comprehensive policy.
Which is why you don't see it as like the blue cross out, we didn't do that yet.
Yeah.
We wanted to have the conversation, figure out what to do, and then we'll draw up the documents, and that's why it's a multi-part.
Yeah.
So what we did was we just gave you what the MSMA and as you read at the top, it's been a very concerted effort between different groups of people to try to figure out what to do with this. Right, the Principals Association, the folks.
But they didn't talk to the bus drivers.
They did not talk to the bus drivers, but we
Just
have
saying.
a rock star.
yeah.
We aren't there.
And it was good that she brought that up, that was a valid,
it's
point that I
great.
didn't even
It's
think
great.
about, so.
That is a very important thing.
Because I guarantee you one thing, you guys prohibit them from bell to bell or whatever you wanna call it, and don't designate it as a bus, that's gonna be the place where you're gonna have the most problems, and you're gonna have more accidents.
Well, the kids are all gonna be jamming in all their cell phone stuff before they get off the bus to go into school.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna pour gas on it.
We're gonna
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
slammed.
You are,
And
yeah.
we're already
I
in
agree.
trouble enough with buses, as far as bus drivers.
Can I say something? Is it okay if I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, sorry, I'm gonna try to stand up. It was stiff, I just had physical therapy. So, from our school's point of view, if it's not a device that these phones are gonna be put in, then it's not gonna work. Because we've already been working on this with shoe boxes and shoe things and put your phone away. It's not gonna work if we don't do some sort of device that locks it down, which is why I'm not sure about the buses, because even if you say that you can't use the phone on the bus, you have one driver driving the bus. And even if you've got someplace to put one phone, people have two others. This is a very, I don't know if I can convey to you enough that burner phones, like, that's a thing, that, these kids have 7, somebody said it. They'll give up 1, but they'll have 7 more, somebody will come in with 8 to hand out, okay? So, there's just that piece. If it were easy, which is much of what my job involves, if it were easy, we'd already be doing it. So at the start of the year, we were making really good progress. We were all on the same page and everybody was really locked in. But I got back from being out for 2 months with another new knee, and I walked around and I'm seeing that it's rampant. Because if it were easy, we'd already be doing it. Could you please put your phone away? I'm just using you as an example. No. Could you please put your phone away? No, I'm not gonna put my phone away.
Sure, no problem.
My phone, my mother was talking to me, I'm not gonna put my phone away. That's the society that we're living in. That's the permissive, I have all the rights and you have none. My mother is talking to me. Excuse me, please don't use that tone of voice with me. And could we come this way? No, I'm not coming that way. Like, our jobs are becoming more and more and more difficult because our society is egotistical, litigious, and this is my world, right here, and you stay out of it.
It's a me world.
And it is a me world, and we are struggling, so whatever it is, we feel, if it's left up to us to manage, it's just gonna be, it's just gonna be what it is right now. So we're going, I think Ian and Danielle and I are going to Bath on June 2nd to visit at what their lockdown procedure looks like when they bring the phones in. But what we have said, and yes, they went through a lot to get this, but also it wasn't state law when they were doing that. So we have that behind us. And a couple other things I'm just thinking about that I would just like to say. We've had 2 times where we have invited the public. We have hired, I can't remember, I'm not gonna be able to remember his name, the cyber crimes detective for Saginaw, and we have invited him twice to come to our school and present to our community the dangers of what is happening with these cell phones. That auditorium should have been full to busting. And the most we had was 11 people. And we were devastated. You don't always get the people out for these things, and maybe they'll come because they're concerned about their kids not having the phone. But people, our kids on these cell phones have access from the moment they can hold it at 6 months to keep busy during their siblings' basketball game. I used to have to watch my brother. And they have access to the most evil, sexual, sadistic information with free access, and we're not worried. It stuns me. Some of the things that I have seen on these phones, I did not want to see in my life. I do not need to see that. That is, I think you'd be shocked. I think you would be shocked if you knew some of the things that we have seen on these phones. So I'm pleased to have the help, but I want them locked down, because then if I say, you were supposed to lock that down, now it's mine, except that I do have to tell you, I really don't want it. Because that device, I can't speak for all of you, but those are $1,000 devices. And when it comes to handing them back, I have never wanted to take people's cell phones. Because then I could have upwards of $15,000 to $20,000 worth of cell phones. It's the end of the day, we're all coming in to grab. And all of a sudden, it's my fault because I took it and you got the wrong one back. And now we can't find yours. So there's something about that too, because it talks about the confiscation. I have, on occasion, kept some. It's never been more than 5, and I had a special box for it, knew where it was. But there's also that piece of how expensive the device is. So I know you, it's about, these are just some of the things that I was thinking. And again, I don't disagree about the bus, I just, the locking devices for some of these, and I know Ian has some ideas on the different devices. I guess what my teachers and I are thinking is at least if we're locking them down, the 15 or 20 kids, because usually when you have a rule, you got 15 or 20 out of 550 that break it, really. I mean, it's amazing, and I often tell my staff when we get down and discouraged, I say, wait a minute. We have 550 kids in the school, and 535 of them walk through these doors and do what they're told to do and are as respectful and as kind and wonderful and doing what they're supposed to do, and we can get caught up with the 15 to 20. But at least if it's the 15 or 20 that are breaking the rule, we then have some teeth because it's supposed to be locked down, and then we can do some of those things. But so anyway, those are just some of the things that we think about.
And there is a,
Randy,
there is
comment on
Yeah.
there is a paragraph in here about you're not gonna be liable.
Yes.
Okay, that's
There is.
good. I didn't read the whole thing.
It says the school unit will not be responsible for loss, theft, or damage to students' personally owned cell phones, smartwatches, blah, blah, blah.
That
blah,
is good to have that in there, because it is
blah.
something that we
Parking,
have thought about.
parking lot, playing
Yes,
fields, all of it.
yeah, that's good
School
then.
buses, it says on there, though.
Pardon me?
But it says school buses.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
One of the other problems with taking them and accumulating them in the office till the end of the day I found was getting them back.
Yeah.
You can't go monitor the buses, or you can't
No,
stop at
absolutely.
after-school
People.
detention because some kids have not picked up their phone.
Yes,
So
the
you're-
office is a very busy
yeah.
place at that.
That was.
People have forgotten notes, the secretaries are answering calls, the buses are calling,
Oh, yeah.
it's for that 5 to 7 minutes.
It's that time of day when that fight
Yes.
happens and you got
Yes.
12 phones and the
Yes.
kids are gonna have to get on the bus without them. And the parents are gonna be even more angry about that.
We're excited about the potential
Yeah.
for this.
The other thing, about lockup, the little cases that they put them in, there is an expense. And that expense, we can still make a policy, even though we don't have them yet. It can say, when we have them, this is what they, something like that.
So I also wanna say,
So if-
I hope we can be ready to go in the fall. It's gonna be really hard to
They may not even
implement a
have
rule.
them. I think Back told us that they had trouble getting
Oh, did
a
they
big
get it,
load of them.
yes.
Yeah, a couple of the schools did that. They
So I
implemented
just
and couldn't get 'em.
I also wanna tell you that we've talked before about the Community Health Improvement Fund, which it was when the Waldo Hospital was sold 2 or 3 years ago, and they have money designated for health improvement. We are eligible every year, I just got the letter, we're eligible for up to 136,000. So I think it was 136, we've gotten probably 75. We've used it for a lot of different things, for activities during lunch and for just a lot of different things. I feel like this fits with the cell phone, it fits with their mission. And so we have written to them and said, if we, just reaching out tentacles, would you fund the high schools? I think the middle school also can use the CHIF grant. So, and because I didn't budget for this, and the state gave us about $1 a kid, boom, boom, boom. My brother and I laughed about that the day that passed. He called me and said, well, state's giving us about $1 a kid. I said, yeah, that's nice, isn't it? $350,000. So we've written to them to just ask them potentially, maybe they would buy the first round. I don't know, but I let Ian know that, and, so we're waiting to see. So those are just some things that I was thinking about. Thank you.
The kids at Bath, by the way, the kids that came and did a presentation that some of us saw, the kids said, we didn't realize how addicted we were to these things until we had to put them away. And they acknowledged that there's a huge difference in the school. I mean, the kids said that.
Again, it's gonna be a smaller percentage of people who really, really resist it. Most of them are probably.
And they said there's kids who still don't cooperate, but tend to be kids who aren't gonna cooperate anyway.
Right, and we are dealing with those kids in a lot of different ways all day long, and that's more manageable. But if I'm standing here and I'm talking about something that, Karen doesn't wanna even hear about, and her phone is out and she's looking, cause she's interested in what cows are eating today, she might be looking at that, like it's really easy to do, right? So,
Okay.
yeah.
The cow cam.
The benefit of I'm sorry.
I had.
Thank you.
I had a question for Linda.
Yeah.
If that's okay, is that okay? Yes. My question is, out of the high school with, say it's 550, I don't know how many students there is, what would you say the percentage is that, I probably already know this, that of kids that have phones from?
Oh, everybody.
From freshmen up.
Oh, everybody, there are very few kids who don't have phones. No, I don't even know of anybody who doesn't have a phone. If they don't have a phone, they're borrowing the phone from somebody else who gave it to them.
Do we have anybody elementary here that can tell us if kids are carrying phones?
Julie.
I don't care,
There
kids
are.
do
Kids
carry
do
phones,
carry
I would never, okay, you would.
Yeah, kids,
Would you guess there's quite a few?
especially with the older kids, like older, third, fourth, fifth grade in
Older.
particular, sixth grade always have them. But they're much better about keeping them off and away.
My daughter was the last 8th grader on the planet, according to her, to get a cell phone. For the record. She was really put out by that.
But I think that this is where this pleasantly vague policy in terms of procedure really needs to shine, because I don't think we need to make a $10,000 investment in pouches for K4 locking devices, because the response from Charlotte is the school just needs a designated location. Shoe bag in the homeroom is okay. If you have a homeroom and shoe bags work for you, that's amazing. Lockers are a location because that doesn't move. Kids put them in their lockers, that's the expectation. Backpacks can't really be the expectation, because if they're not carrying a backpack, then it's in their like on their body anywhere is not a location according to, in a pouch is a location. So elementary school, they have backpacks and cubbies. The middle school has lockers. So we don't have to necessarily invest in the infrastructure or write a policy expecting that investment in infrastructure takes place. So what's nice about this is they have given schools the opportunity to make their own plans, experiment, collaborate with parents, adjust on the fly without having it etched into a policy that needs to be revised at the board level. As long as your procedure ends in the result that the phones are turned off and put in a stored location as designated by administration from the beginning of the day to the end of the day.
Can I ask a question? I've heard about these pouches, and I know that there are a lot of schools across the country that have actually had a lot of success, and like you mentioned, the kids will even sort of acknowledge that it's successful when they're talking to each other. Go figure. Can you explain to me, because what I don't understand is like, do they keep it on them? It's an honor system pouch situation?
Well,
Or there's like a locking mechanism, they can press a button, can you explain that to me?
there
Or
are
does it-
many
do they get
different pouches.
congregated?
I don't know if you've ever been to a concert recently where they ask for
No,
audience
I
members to
haven't.
lock their cell phones. Sometimes when you go see a stand-up comic who's working out
Sure,
material,
sure. Yeah.
put this in, we don't want you taking videos, enjoy the show. They're about the size of a old mail deposit bag
Yeah.
that has a magnetic latch to it. So when it's zipped and the latch comes over the zipper,
Yeah.
it will lock down with a magnet and will take a stronger magnet to release the lock.
Okay.
So there are unlocking mechanisms
Mhm.
that the school will need to strategically place out at dismissal
Got it.
in order to have students unlock their pouches, which is another reason why unlocking on the bus may not work, because they need that magnetic unlocker with them. That doesn't mean that off and away doesn't mean off and away in a different way.
Sure.
The product that I'm looking at is, the problem with the bags is that they are fully opaque.
Mhm.
They are fabric, so they can be tearable, there's some wear and tear on them. And a kid could put an old TI-84 graphing calculator in their bag, close it with the magnet, and show something solid and rectangular in the bag, and keep their phone in their backpack or in their pocket. But the expectation is off and away, so if a teacher sees a cell phone-sized bulge in the pocket of a student, they can say, what is that?
Mhm.
You know, it does still take some eyes on kids. In Camden, the procedure is, if a teacher suspects a student having a cell phone, you call an assistant principal immediately. You push it up the chain of command, the assistant principal comes and deals with the situation. So it doesn't become a power struggle with the teacher.
What do we?
There are implementations are different all over the place. The product that I got delivered yesterday from a company called Newcase reminds me of an old CD or DVD plastic case. Remember you get a video game or something, and it's see-through, so you can see what's in the case. It's a hard plastic shell. It has a little sliding mechanism on the top, goes into the magnet, 1/4 inch slide, and they can unlock it. That's an alternative that's a little less expensive than the Yonder pouches. And the thing I like about that a little more is in case of emergency, it's hard plastic, so if a kid is in the woods because they've used the Alice method and taken to their own means to find egress from a situation, if they take a rock and smash that case open,
Sure.
I don't care. Have at it, we have insurance on those things. A Yonder pouch may be harder to access in case of individual emergency. So there's pros and cons of all of these. And in terms of medical devices, they do have medical cases where in the hard plastic, there's actually a window where you can slide your finger and maybe find that one app that will silence your glucose monitor or alert somebody that something is going on. So they are looking at us from a supply state. I asked them, will you be in, and they said, oh yeah, no, there are 37 states right now that have bell-to-bell cell phone bans.
Wow.
We are not the tip of the spear on this. Florida, probably the most stay-off-my-lawn state in our union, were the first in the country to enact a policy like this at the statewide level. So they are ordering and ordering and ordering. The factories and the supply chain is full of bags and pouches and locks and magnets, and they have ensured that all of the vendors will have them as soon as we pick a lane.
Never mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
My only concern is how quickly will it take for these kids to figure out where they can buy a magnet to unlock said devices?
The tech department had a lot of fun yesterday trying to open it up, and they did not have a magnet strong enough to do it.
There will be kids who will seek to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, it will become old, and it will be the same 15 or 20.
Right.
And then, it'll be obvious that they have their phones, so then they're subject to the rest of this. It's not 550 kids that we're trying to manage the phone with, it's 25.
Right.
And that's a little different, yeah.
It was pointed out to us by them as knows, is that after a certain amount of time of this successfully being implemented, there's less incentive for the scofflaws to scoff because no one else is on their phone. So it's like, I did it, I broke the rules, I've got it. It's a desert today because most of the kids are playing by the rules and doing what they're supposed to.
The other, oh, sorry, Claire.
I was just saying, because some states had it for multiple years, so they have they know, like, some of these pouches have been around a lot longer than others.
And Los Angeles County is moving ahead of the state of California. I mean, it's a nationwide movement. The knock-on effect, of course, and I don't mean to make this situation even harder, is it's not just cell phones that this policy would would affect. We have a lot of students, a large handful of students who bring their own laptops to the high school. Some of them prefer to use a Mac over a Chromebook. We have students who
It's because you're better.
use, our great news cast that we've lauded, and Brooke has done a great job with this. A lot of them use their personal cell phones to film their news stories. So there's not just like, we're gonna get them off the phones, we're also limiting access to some educational benefit for these students. And we're gonna need to accommodate not only the ne'er-do-wells with their texting and Snapchatting and Instagramming and all the other stuff, but we're also gonna have to make accommodations for students and understand that this is going to impact students who use their personal electronic devices for actually the powers of good and their own education. And that's where the knock-on effect happens with JINDB and IJNDBR. So if this policy goes into play, then it is no personal electronic device that has cellular or internet capabilities.
But students don't necessarily need.
They do not need it.
They need a calculator, they get a calculator, you need a laptop, you get a laptop, you don't need, right?
Right, no, absolutely. But we're just saying that we're not just limiting
Yeah.
negative behavior, we are also potentially impacting students who have positive reasons to use
So
their
for example, if
devices.
somebody's making a news program where they would use their cell phone to record something, they would now use a school-issued iPad
We would have
with
to.
the camera.
We'd
Right,
have,
you just have
Yeah,
to,
we would have to make
there's
those.
an impact here, and Linda's point I just wanted to make is, it kind of dovetails back to my original point, which was the first 3 weeks were tough for parents, and then it got way better. I just want to emphasize
Yeah.
that the parents then were like, oh my goodness, this is so much better, because the kids came home and said, this is so much better for us. And by the time we got to mid-October, everyone was like, this is the best thing we've ever done. So I just want to reiterate that Linda's point that 25 people, I would even argue that out of 520 people, you're probably going to have 10
Yeah, it's.
that are going to have a problem with the pouch or whatever thing we do. And you have to discipline them, and we just got to the point where we said, if you have your cell phone out and you're using it, then it's in the office and you don't get it back until your parent comes and picks it up. We didn't wait at the end of the day for people to get on the bus, you put them on the bus without a cell phone. The mother had to miss work the next day and come in and get it. This isn't, cell phones are not a right to humanity.
Yeah.
They're a privilege. And if parents won't support the administration in managing this, then the administration needs to engage the parents and have them come in and have a difficult conversation about their child not following the rules. Like, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything, I feel bad, but it's a small group of people, but it is incredibly disruptive.
So you might not have thought about this one, but we have had students who are in class and they go to the bathroom and they call out a friend, so it's like that they act like they're the parent.
Oh yeah, they call them out late for the afternoon, yeah.
And
Bueller.
so
Gee.
the attendance secretary is such a smart lady and is so good at voices after all these years of here, and so they don't realize how quickly we can catch them, but they try, and I'm sure perhaps we're not perfect, but that's another whole liability that we did get kind of chuckling the other day, because she came in and she said, well, somebody just tried to call out so-and-so, but I know that he didn't sound like his father, so he's not going anywhere, and it's just so much to think about that is related to safety, keeping our students safe.
Right, and to your point, the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there, do you hear the sound? It's the same thing if there's only a couple of kids, 15 kids that have these road burner cell phones, and they go in the bathroom, they lick a urinal, they put it on TikTok, no one else has access to their phones, or, at that point, is it worth making the video of if you flick in the urinal in the bathroom?
the other piece that, and I wish that we would look at doing a staff or board read of The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, because
Yes, it's an excellent book.
his work in this is what has spurred this national movement.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance to listen to a podcast that he's done, or if the board wants to read the book or have a reading group around it, it's really important. The idea is not necessarily the want or opportunity to do a bad act. If Rachel knows that Leah is going to be on her phone, Rachel's gonna wonder, what is she seeing? What news is she getting? What is being posted? What am I missing? And it's really the anxiety of that FOMO, of not being in the know of the news and the rumors, or what are they saying about me, or are people making plans without me, or does my mom, is she about to say, I love you, for that dopamine rush, or maybe she texted me and I know she's gonna be really nervous if I don't text her back, so I have to check my text right away, because I don't want my mom to be freaked out that I don't say I love you back, I'm having a great day, thanks mom. You know, so there's just a general anxiousness of connectivity that these students are feeling, and they can't, if someone is on their phone and you're not, what am I missing? Is more powerful than the need to take a picture of someone in the bathroom. You know, that's the underlying tension that these devices provide. And so detaching them from that constant dopamine rush and need to know is really what will settle them into their seats, let them focus on the here and the now, to be present in their own education and make the most of their daily experience. So while we can focus on the bad actors, I think all students and children and even adults, because I've picked up my phone 3 times since I've been sitting here, just have that general what's going on, what am I missing? And that's a really unhealthy state for students to be walking through the buildings with.
Ben?
So we have GBCC, the employee cell phone use, as a cross-reference here, but I think as we work our way through and as we develop things, we should probably be looking for ways to encourage staff to lead by example. If the kids are gonna be watching their teachers, and if the teachers say one thing and do another, you know, it will be noticed and it will be commented upon. You know, I know there are probably limits to being restrictive, and I'm not gonna suggest that we suddenly, you know, are like shackling teachers' cell phones to, you know, a cabinet someplace, but whether we do it in policy or whether we do it outside of policy, I think that's gonna be an important component of making this successful.
That
Can I
makes,
just add
makes a
something to that
good
as a
point.
teacher, just to keep in mind, because the board probably doesn't know. Teachers often have to use their own cell phones now, so like, I work for RSU 13, not RSU 40, so I don't know if this is true for RSU 40, but when my email decides I need a check-in, it sends a message to my cell phone that I have to enter, so, and there's other ways that I have to use my cell phone all the time. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're talking about teacher use, like, this district is requiring us to use our cell phones.
Yeah.
So it would be an interesting balance.
Great.
Yeah, this student cell phone policy, but the experience, Ben, I can tell you that, yeah, there are staff too that will pick up their middle of class and
My biggest
take a
concern is when they're used during the duty.
and they'll say
If you're
teachers
on
are,
duty, you should not be scrolling on your
yeah,
phone.
teachers will say, hey,
But
but
it
we're in the
happens.
communications business. And the teachers talk on the phone and the kids aren't allowed to. Anyway, just thought I'd mention it.
Has there been any discussion about doing an ad hoc committee for this policy, maybe involving administrators? I guess, Linda, are you saying that you would like us to have a board level procedure as well as the policy? Or?
No, I'm going along with whatever Ian is suggesting, but when we get to the point of what we want to use, whether it's a procedure or policy, I think that the command, the adult command doesn't work and will not be enough. Because if it did work, we'd already be doing it, because we've been trying that for years. So I'm just for wherever it fits for how Ian is proposing this, that the procedure that we get is device oriented in some way, because otherwise, we need T.
So can I just clarify?
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, I don't think it,
Not
Thank-
Ian, I didn't say that.
no,
but-
I knew
I
what you
appreciate
meant, but for the
Yeah.
public that's watching at home,
Yeah.
I have no idea, Ian, is it 5 people, or I don't know how many people.
Nobody's watching this at home.
Yeah.
They'll be watching tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay. So I just think it's important to recognize that this is a board policy. Ian's suggesting some things, Linda will suggest some things, I've shared some things, but this is a community decision that we have to be, whatever we come up with, we need to back. And so what Linda's needs, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, Linda, but Linda needs to know, if we agree philosophically that schools should not have cell phones or personal electronic devices, that's one thing, we can start there and agree with that, but then there's the backward splay out of the impact. So there's 3 levels of backward splay out of impact, and that backward problem is, Ian talked about the impact to learning that kids use cell phones for productively. We need to be ready to address that. There's what are we going to do with the devices during the day? Do they go in a pouch at the front of the room? Do they go in a locker? And we're on the cusp of a big capital possibility at the high school, which could impact whether or not the lockers are even there anymore.
I was just gonna say
So if we're
that.
going
I just wanted to speak to that.
and the lockers don't really work that well, so if we're going to use them, we need to fix them. So that's another thing. So then do we use the lockers, do we use the yonder pouches, what do we do with them? And then the third piece is, what do we do about it when people don't do what they're supposed to do? So I think that my opinion would be to invite people and the administrators to come here and do what we're doing now, which is really more effectively a workshop, where we're talking and having dialogue, and have the policy committee talk and have a dialogue with anyone who wants to. And Tori, thanks for chiming in, because those are really important points, and Myrna, we're so happy you're here. I don't really know that anyone knows what the answer is to this, because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, right? Madomic has different variables than the last place I worked, partly because the lockers don't work and they don't use them. So if they used their lockers and they worked, this would be easy. Cell phones are often in their lockers. And if you see someone with a cell phone, right, I just want you to know that the yonder pouches the one thing it does do is it helps with the anxiety piece that Ian alluded to, because they still have the phone with them. They know where it is. The burner phone thing is going to be forever. And we just have to catch the people that are doing that and hold them accountable firmly.
Rachel.
I know this is not like the moment that we make this decision, but I think to Rachel's point about the amount of time that I spend worrying about my kids' safety in building when they're not with me is overwhelming. And my kids are young, and my husband's in IT, so they will be 25 before they get a cell phone probably. But I think in order to sort of be empathetic to a parent's fear, even though we know logistically cell phones are not we know all these things in our heads, in our hearts it's different. So I really liked sort of the description that you gave about the clear plastic thing, sort of from a sort of enforcement thing for Linda, like you look, nope, that's phone, like, okay. And if my kid's a mile in the woods and they need to smash it open, they can smash it open. And sort of properly embrace, like sort of saying, like, this is gonna suck, like, we know this is a big change, but we also hear you that this is a lot of pressure on you to sort of keep up with, you know, if Jimmy has his phone, then Johnny needs his phone, but if Jimmy doesn't have his phone, then maybe Johnny doesn't care so much. I think the adults setting the example is important. I think we need to keep in my own house, you know, Crystal set up game night for us the other night, and she went around and took everybody's phone and put the tablets away, and I was like, oh, I like this. So to be able to connect and engage, and I just wanted to sort of bring up the point that as we move forward, I'm interested in hearing more about options that
I'll bring some next time.
in event of an emergency, a true emergency, there's a way.
If I could quickly just restate my recommendation. I recommend that you pass this policy pretty much as written. That
Your draft.
Oh, well, my draft,
Yeah.
but I used the word expectation or something twice. The one thing that I was told shouldn't be there. Implement twice, yep, I made that cardinal sin, I copied and pasted something. My recommendation is that this board passes the policy pretty much as written not by the state, but with revisions, not this time, but maybe next time, because I believe that the board needs to create the downward pressure on the schools and the parents and the students to engage in this conversation. If we get lost in the weeds of how it's gonna work, we are going to miss the opportunity to, this needs to work, I think is the message that the board needs to set, because the state said that to us. They've created the downward pressure on our district. I think the board has an opportunity to create downward pressure on the buildings. Figure it out, let us know what you're doing, and we will give you our feedback.
The longer we sort of fart around, the less time
Right,
that
because I think
implementation process
that
and
Linda can work
engagement
with her
process.
leadership team and her assistant principals and the state, and the student council and the stakeholders in her building to create a very different solution than one that would come up in this room, where Union Elementary, Clint and his leadership team downstairs may come up with a very different but equally effective solution for the conditions at Union. So I don't think that, as great as these conversations are, I think the board's, my recommendation is that the board passes the policy in favor of a entire school day ban on cellular devices. Doesn't have to be bell to bell, and that sets the stage for the hard work that needs to happen. It doesn't have to happen today, it could happen next meeting, but I believe that that's the appropriate next step for the board in this, as far as this issue.
Yeah, and
I can't make a motion, but that would be my recommendation.
That's what I was alluding to when I spoke before.
Yeah.
I would make a suggestion after listening to Linda and listening to everyone that's been talking here. I agree with you can't take the cell phones away from them on the bus, that would be too time consuming for them coming on. But I do think it shouldn't read bell to bell, I think it should be from the start of the school day, which is identified as when they get on the bus. Because otherwise, how are you gonna enforce that policy? They're only gonna see the bus is a place where they can do it.
Well, I would definitely see that another whole cohort of people that would be discussing this is the facilities people and the bus drivers to make if I'm doing it for my school, why aren't they then making and thinking about suggestions for how it can happen on the bus? Like that's another whole cohort of people to talk about implementing the plan. Instead of me coming up with a way for them to do it, like they're thinking about what their job entails and what that might look like. Because the time spent is gonna be the biggest thing. As kids are getting, like, you get on, you
No, I
get,
get that,
yes.
but
But then that's why I think you guys could discuss ways that you could do it.
But at any rate, I believe that word has to be at the start of
Yeah.
school, because you've got no way to enforce anything on the bus, and then maybe say they're gonna be locked away when they're at school, but it's at the start of the school that day.
Yeah.
And identify what
Yeah,
that
I've got Randy
is,
to-
because otherwise, how are we gonna work, how is it going to be enforced? Because we'll have to go into the school or whatever. You gotta have some way, and parents are gonna say, well, they can use them on the bus because you said that's after they're locked, bell to bell.
Yeah.
So you've got to start it, so, in my opinion.
Is there research out there about schools that have extended it through the busing and?
Not that I've looked, I can look at that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, so it might be great help.
Well, I was gonna say earlier, and then I realized it wouldn't work. If you had talked about a bag that had the magnet on it, and then somebody has the stronger magnet. Like if there could be a bag there that they put their phones in, and Myrna could lock it, but they don't all get on the bus at the same time.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, so.
Do they take their bag, like, where does the bag
And
live?
there are some schools that collect them at the end of the day, there's a bin that they drop them into at the end of the day, they grab another one on their way in through the door. But most schools have the students bring them home and carry them with them.
And there can't be a magnet on a bus?
No, it's a machine.
Well, it's,
You mean the unlock?
they are $80 a piece for the unlocking mechanism, and they're usually mounted on something that's, so I think it would be impractical, especially if you're talking about stopping traffic, having multiple students try to unlock
I
their
agree
bags.
with that.
It might be logistically difficult.
I'm glad I'm here to hear everybody, because what she said was really helpful. But like I said, the bell to the bells thing is what bothers me, because how are you gonna enforce anything that's on the bus when you say it's only after they walk them bell to bell,
Yeah,
you know?
I've got Randy, then I've got Leah, so, go ahead, Randy.
How many policy meetings do we have before next September?
One.
So, I
Technically,
heard a
one.
motion, it wasn't about the one.
Let's do
We should figure something out.
It's-
We can make ad hoc committees and we can talk to Bath and we can, do all this.
Research how to handle it on the bus, like this.
Get the policy passed first. Get something, or at least something, a preliminary in place. We're gonna have this next meeting, we're not gonna make a decision, kids are gonna come in the phones just the same way it's been, and it's gonna be November before we try to implement something serious, October. And we're already gonna have the next year's bad habits started. So something should be, and I don't know if we can do that, I don't know if we can pass a kind of like a policy, a heads up policy.
We can revise
It's going to
policy
happen,
anytime.
we just need to figure out whether there's pouches, whether it's here, whether there's the unlocker at the front door, that could all be done.
The
But I think
logistics.
the policy needs to come
Yes,
in
it has
place
to.
either tonight,
Yeah.
so we can bring it to, or next meeting,
Well,
absolutely.
you can have a policy meeting in
Can
the
I-
summer, it's not
Right.
forbidden.
Right, it's not forbidden, that's what I'm saying, that's something I could talk with
The
Dave.
only
but
thing
it's
that
gotta
we would
go
have to change
to
on
two
here
board
would be the first bullet point where it says prior to the starting bell.
Yeah, I have a couple language changes that would fix it. Okay, so under the bell-to-bell prohibition, one, we probably should not say bell-to-bell prohibition,
Right.
right?
Yep, so just strike that.
So, yeah, just take it out completely.
Perfect, got
And then in that first paragraph, capabilities for the duration of the entire school day, strike from starting to dismissal and say except as otherwise permitted in this policy.
Leah, can you do that? Oh, I got it, okay, can you say it one more time, please?
Strike from starting to dismissal.
Yep.
And then, in the first bullet point, say by the start of the school day, cell phones and other PEDs must be powered off. Cause the intent here was that we're not like, the bell rings and then you turn off your phone, right? This is like,
What did you say then?
by the start of the school day, cell phones and other PEDs must be powered off.
Before the start of the school day.
Sure, yeah.
Before the start of the school day.
Tell them what the school.
So, but yeah, I was just thinking that like, it should say, in parentheses, perhaps, the school day begins when the child boards the bus.
I don't want to put the responsibility on the bus drivers to be controlling cell phones. That's my concern, is that saying it this way says, sure, the school day starts at the bus, and the bus driver can take away cell phones if they see them, but I don't know how we're going to control that on the
You gotta have
buses.
a way to enforce it.
But you can, I think that it gives you the ability to,
I think it needs to be stated that it's
starting at pickup.
at pickup.
It's always been
And-
stated that
Because
it's.
you as a parent, when are you gonna feel as though your kid starts the school day? Do you really believe it's on the
I
bus?
would not have.
You'd believe it was at
Right,
the
yeah.
school,
Yeah.
right? So that leaves everybody
And then
thinking
the
that it's
logistics of
okay
it
on
can
the
be
school bus.
figured out by
Okay, so what
facilities.
would you say?
Huh?
How would you word it?
Um,
Starting,
Starting with, bus pickup,
You could put in parentheses, including bus rides,
including
van,
bus rides, including bus rides.
And
there we go.
van.
so,
And van.
including transportation.
Transportation.
Or what about, oh, sorry, we're getting a little unruly.
no, it's okay. I'm not done though,
Oh, go ahead.
Last language change would be the second blue paragraph, the superintendent/building administrators will be responsible for developing procedures and implementing this policy.
Yes, we already struck that.
Okay.
Yep.
But did you do that wording?
I got it right here.
I'm working in one, I think Ian's in a different one, but we'll keep it together.
Did you have something, Rachel?
I was wondering sort of if there should be just a sentence that says, this policy includes,
Yeah. The start of,
When-
like, define the school day.
right, like, something like, upon boarding district transportation,
Ooh, I love that.
something,
That
like
includes
a whole,
district transportation.
yeah,
Can
this
I-
policy applies
It's
to,
in policy somewhere.
It probably is, but it should,
School day is when they board the
it
bus.
should, I think it is, but I think this needs to be specific,
yeah.
so.
I mean, we just shouldn't go against what policy
Yeah.
that we already got.
Ben, and then I'll get to the other Rachel.
At least as far as field trips and things are concerned, I believe that the travel to and from the destination falls under that umbrella because we heard about, they figuring out how to implement for those situations as well, whether it's, you have a handheld, your chaperone has a handheld unlocker and you can have your things or whatever, but.
This is where,
JICC says this, the board requires students to conduct themselves in a manner that's consistent with applicable board policies, procedures, and school rules when riding a school bus or other school vehicles. So we have a policy that says, basically, the bus is the extension of the school. That's always been what we in transportation and facility, believe, that the same behaviors that you expect at school, you expect on the bus.
Go ahead, Tim, I'm not on the committee.
The only thing that I would like to bring up, and I don't know a way around it or whatever, and this isn't to detract from your concerns, Marinette, but like, I'm doing carpentry all day long, I have an iPhone, I've got my earbuds in, I'm listening to my music. We live in a really rural district, some of these kids are on the bus for an extremely long time, and now we're taking away their ability to just quietly listen to their own music and kind of, I understand that there are disruptors, that some people are disrupting, but we're turning around and punishing those that are not, so what can we do to?
Well, what you can do is, because if you get one of those old-fashioned MP3 players that doesn't have internet connection or connect to the internet, they're not violating this policy. So if I got an old Zune, if people still remember what those are, or an iPod, you could use that on the bus without violating the policy.
but you're asking the driver to make a snap decision in the gray with technology they may or may not be familiar with. I think if it's a rectangle and it has headphones,
That would be my.
there would be some confusion there.
But we've already said that kids can listen to music at school with their headphones and a computer, so like where are we?
Their Chromebook, yeah.
Yeah, I do not have skin in the game, but if we say entire school day, does that give the board reason to define what entire school day is later on in the process?
I wasn't trying to throw a dog in the wheel, I just wanted to bring it up.
No,
Some kids are on the bus.
No, this is why we need to have time to talk about this.
right.
It's
Some
complex.
kids have an hour-long plus bus ride,
So I
and they're
don't
listening to music,
agree
but
with
they're
you
not being disrupted.
on that, because one of the best things that you can do sometimes on a field trip that you've been gone until you're riding home at 10 o'clock at night because you've been to Boston. Look, kids, plug in your music. It's music time. See, that's the time when you do want to say that. Plug in your music, let's stop talking. I need a little piece.
We did have a revision in INJDB-R around field trips, co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So that was written in a different policy that we didn't get to tonight, but I think that exceptions by administration.
Exceptions,
Yeah.
so, that
Yeah, so, okay, so we do need to wrap it up because we actually have a board meeting starting up, so.
I just
What-
have a point that
Oh,
kind
go
of,
ahead.
I think, do we cover that? So I'm just trying to be I think you make a really good point actually, because the bus, like, as somebody who gets very overstimulated, the idea of riding a bus, like, first thing I want to do is cover my ears. Are we covered because we consider transportation part of the school day? A child with an IEP or a 504 for sensory needs or whatever could have that. I don't wanna look for the loophole, I also wanna be clear about that. But if it's a true, to the point to try to get this done tonight, we can deal with the intricacies of could you hypothetically listen to music on the school bus later if we get, I just don't want to let this sit.
I have a recommendation. I would recommend that you write before the start of the school day and just do that for tonight.
Yeah.
Get the ball rolling.
And then go
And
back.
then Leah made a kind of a point that I think is really salient that you don't wanna lose. You can revise your policy again later.
Mhm.
But this gets the ball rolling and gets Ian working
Yeah.
on, it gives him the bones to start having the conversation to figure out the plan. And then you're going to have either board or committee meetings about which packaging.
Right.
Doohickey, whatever you wanna call it, or what are we going to do about the bus? And Myrna, we're not saying no to your idea, we're saying we need more time to research how people deal with it on buses. That, right, so let's just, we can put that in the parking lot with an awareness.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve policy JICJ with edits as proposed to send to the board for first reading.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Rachel and Tim. Have any other comments on the proposed motion?
Only on motion.
All those in favor? Opposed? 7-0. And
Rick, could we have, sometime in our next policy, our last policy, if we want to do something, or?
I
should
will
we
get clarification
move
on
along?
this last policy meeting debate, because technically, we would actually have another one, because we would be meeting before the board meeting in July. So technically, you'd have 2 meetings if you really want to get strict.
That's not, well, I'm thinking this is important, and the sooner
Correct.
kids and parents know about it.
Thank you all for
that
your
it's-
conscientious
We
diligence.
will send out
We
a
really
notice
support
tomorrow that this has been passed,
It's not.
and then we're gonna, this is the start of the conversation.
It would have to be signed
Yeah.
For our school year.
Which is fine.
if there isn't one second.
One thing I'd recommend in the fall, if you do some of the roundtables that we did last year, have a night where you
Yeah.
talk about this policy with the administrators and diet, right? So that you can kind of get feedback from them on the street level about what's working, what's not working, and what ideas you have, and continue to refine it.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to table the rest of these?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
No, because we didn't get to them, so they
Because we
get
didn't
automatically tabled to the next meeting anyway.
yeah, and there will be one other policy at the next meeting, which is the public comment policy,
Yeah.
which I've been working on for you all to get ready, because there's some changes that the, School Boards Association has sent out.
Again, another thing
Did
that
they make it
kind of fell in
longer?
our lap at the last minute. So.
I'm still working on it.
Okay, so with that in mind, it is 6:52 and the meeting is adjourned.